There's a reason bloating feels so frustrating, because it seems simple. Your stomach swells, your clothes feel tighter, you feel heavy, uncomfortable, sometimes embarrassed. And the natural assumption is, I ate the wrong thing. But bloating is rarely just one thing. Sometimes it's trapped gas, stuck behind tense intestinal muscles. Sometimes it's food sitting too long in the stomach, fermenting instead of moving. Sometimes it's stress, because the gut and the brain are in constant conversation, and a stressed nervous system can change the rhythm of digestion in real time. And sometimes, the real issue is irritation, a digestive lining that has become inflamed, raw, or overly reactive. That's why one remedy works beautifully for one person and does almost nothing for another. The good news is that traditional food cultures understood this long before modern gastroenterology gave us the vocabulary for it. Across Japan, India, the Mediterranean, indigenous North America, and old European herbal traditions, people turned to different plants for different digestive patterns. Some relaxed spasms, some stimulated bile, some fed the microbiome, some coated the gut itself, and today, we're walking through 20 of the most remarkable gut-healing plants for bloating and digestive comfort, from the familiar to the overlooked. Stay with me, because later we'll get to a tree bark that turns into a soothing gel inside the body, a humble weed most people rip out of their lawns without realizing what it does for digestion, and a common vegetable whose juice once stunned doctors with how quickly it seemed to help the stomach heal. Let's begin with the plants that work fast. Plants that relax the gut and move trapped gas. 1. Peppermint, the muscle relaxer. Almost everyone knows, but few truly understand. If there's one plant that has earned its reputation across centuries, it's peppermint. Ancient Egyptians used it. Greek and Roman physicians wrote about it. And across cultures, when a meal sat too heavy or the stomach started to feel tight and swollen, peppermint was one of the first things people reached for. The reason is beautifully simple. Peppermint contains menthol, a compound that helps relax the smooth muscle lining of the digestive tract. That matters because a lot of bloating is mechanical. Gas is not just produced, it gets trapped. And when the muscles of the gut are tense or spasming, that gas has nowhere to go. Peppermint helps release that tension. Modern research has been especially interested in peppermint oil, particularly enteric-coated capsules, and study after study has found meaningful improvements in bloating, cramping, and IBS-related discomfort. In plain language, it helps the gut unclench. That's why peppermint often feels fast. Not magical, mechanical. You can use it the old way, a strong cup of peppermint tea after a meal. Or, for some people, enteric-coated peppermint oil works more deeply lower in the digestive tract, where bloating often builds. And what makes peppermint such a powerful starting point is that it introduces one of the big ideas in this video. Sometimes relief comes not from fixing the food, but from changing the physical behavior of the gut itself. 2. Fennel, the ancient after-dinner seed with real science behind it. Walk into traditional food cultures from India to the Mediterranean, and you'll often find fennel waiting at the end of the meal. Not because it's trendy, because people noticed what it did. Fennel seeds contain aromatic compounds, especially anethole, that help relax digestive muscles and reduce the sense of pressure that comes from trapped gas. It's both carminative and antispasmodic, which means it helps gas move and helps the gut stop resisting that movement. That's why chewing fennel after dinner became a ritual in so many places. And what's fascinating is that modern studies on fennel extracts have found improvements in bloating, digestive discomfort, and abdominal tension, especially in people prone to cramping or post-meal fullness. Chew the seeds slowly after a heavy meal, or crush them into a tea. This is old wisdom in one of its purest forms. A tiny seed, used for centuries, still outperforming a lot of modern guesswork. If these first 2 plants are already changing how you think about bloating, take a second to like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who always says, "I don't know why my stomach feels like this after I eat." Because by the end of this video, they may finally understand why. 3. Ginger, the plant that gets digestion moving again. Now we move from trapped gas to something else entirely, slow digestion. Ginger has been used for over 5,000 years across Chinese, Ayurvedic, and Mediterranean traditions. And one of the reasons it has survived every era is that it works on digestion from multiple angles at once. It helps stimulate gastric emptying, which means food leaves the stomach more efficiently instead of lingering there, fermenting, and creating that heavy, overfull, bloated feeling. It also has anti-inflammatory compounds, particularly gingerols, that help calm irritation along the digestive tract. This is why ginger is so different from peppermint. Peppermint relaxes, ginger mobilizes. If your bloating feels like food just sits there, if you feel full for too long, if a heavy meal seems to remain in your stomach for hours, ginger is often the more intelligent choice. Fresh ginger tea is the classic preparation. Simmer slices of fresh root in water, drink it warm, and let it do what traditional medicine systems have trusted it to do for thousands of years. Wake digestion back up. 4. Cumin, the forgotten spice that helps prevent gas before it starts. Cumin is one of those plants that hides in plain sight. People think of it as flavor. Ancient cultures understood it as function. Across Indian, Middle Eastern, and North African cuisine, cumin appears over and over again in foods that might otherwise be hard to digest. Beans, lentils, stews, heavier dishes. That is not random. Cumin helps stimulate digestive secretions and enzymes. In other words, it helps the body break food down more efficiently before that food becomes fuel for excess fermentation. And that's important, because a lot of gas begins long before you feel it. It begins when food is only partially digested, and gut microbes start fermenting what your body didn't finish processing. Cumin helps shift that equation. It also has mild carminative effects, helping reduce the pressure and discomfort that come with gas once it's already there. Toast the seeds, add them generously to meals, or steep them into a digestive tea. This is one of those plants that reminds us how traditional cuisines were often secretly medicinal systems. 5. Coriander, the seed that softens a gassy, overactive gut. Coriander seed, different from the fresh leaf cilantro, has a long history as a digestive plant in Egyptian, Greek, and Ayurvedic traditions. Its volatile oils help relax intestinal tension, support the movement of gas, and calm that uncomfortable combination of fullness and cramping that often follows difficult meals. But coriander may also do something more subtle. It appears to support microbial balance, and that's a powerful idea, because some people don't just have too much gas. They have a gut environment that ferments aggressively, a microbiome that turns normal meals into excess pressure. Coriander won't solve everything, but in traditional combinations with cumin and fennel, it becomes part of a larger digestive strategy. Improve breakdown, reduce spasm, and soften gas before it becomes misery. 6. Caraway, the European seed built for heavy food. In Central and Eastern Europe, caraway was traditionally baked into breads and paired with cabbage dishes and slow-cooked meals. Again, not for the flavor alone. Caraway contains strong carminative oils that help trapped gas move through the digestive tract more easily. It has also been studied, especially in combination with peppermint oil, for reducing bloating, fullness, and upper digestive discomfort. That combination matters. Peppermint relaxes the muscle. Caraway helps move the gas. Together, they target two sides of the same problem. So if your bloating shows up after heavy dinners, holiday meals, restaurant meals, or anything rich and slow to digest, caraway is one of the most historically proven plants on this list. 7. Anise, the sweet seed for cramping and pressure anise, has a sweet, licorice-like aroma and a long medicinal history stretching back to Egypt and Rome. Like fennel, it contains anethol, which helps relax the digestive tract and ease spasm. But anise is especially associated with crampy bloating, the kind that comes with sharp discomfort and tightness rather than just general fullness. This is why anise tea became a traditional after-meal remedy in so many places. Not because it was fashionable, because people noticed that when the gut seized up, anise made it easier for the whole system to soften and release. And by now, you may be noticing a pattern. Some plants work by soothing irritation, some by stimulating digestion, some by feeding the microbiome, but a surprisingly large number work by changing movement. Chamomile, the gut-brain plant. Not all bloating starts in the stomach. Some of it starts in the nervous system. Chamomile has been used for centuries as a calming herb, but its digestive reputation is just as important. It helps ease spasms in the digestive tract while also calming the stress response that can tighten the gut from above. And that's the key. The gut is not a machine isolated from emotion. It is deeply wired to the brain. Stress can alter motility, secretions, tension, and pain sensitivity in ways that make a completely ordinary meal feel uncomfortable. Chamomile works on both ends of that loop. It calms the nervous system, and it calms the gut. That's why it's so useful for evening bloating, tense day bloating, anxious travel bloating, or the kind of digestive discomfort that seems out of proportion to what you actually ate. 9. Lemon balm, the nervous stomach remedy. Old herbal texts often use the phrase nervous stomach. That phrase sounds old-fashioned, but it describes something incredibly modern, a stomach that gets tight when life gets loud. Lemon balm has long been used in European herbalism for exactly this pattern. It has mild calming effects on the nervous system, but it also helps relax the smooth muscle of the digestive tract, making it especially useful when stress and digestive tension arrive together. The experience is distinct. Peppermint feels cooling, ginger feels activating, lemon balm feels like the body exhaling. And for the person whose bloating flares up during high-stress periods, busy work weeks, or restless evenings, that can make all the difference. 10. Holy basil, the adaptogen for stress-triggered digestion. In Ayurveda, holy basil, or tulsi, has been considered sacred for generations. It's often spoken about for resilience, not just relaxation. That's what makes it special. Holy basil doesn't simply sedate. It appears to help regulate the body's stress response, including cortisol patterns that can ripple through digestion. Chronically elevated stress chemistry can slow motility, disrupt the microbiome, and make bloating far more likely. Holy basil offers a different approach. It helps the body handle the pressure better. So if your digestive symptoms seem to worsen during intense seasons of life, this plant belongs in the conversation. It's less about emergency relief and more about changing the internal environment that keeps bloating coming back. And this is a good moment to step back and remember something important. If bloating keeps returning, the question isn't only what makes it go away. The better question is, what pattern is causing it in the first place? That shift in thinking is where real progress begins. Plants that soothe and protect an irritated gut lining, now we move into a very different category. Because sometimes the stomach doesn't just need movement, it needs protection. 11. Aloe vera, the inner gel that soothes from the inside. Most people know aloe for sunburn, but traditional medicine knew something else. The same soothing quality that comforts irritated skin can also help calm an irritated digestive tract. The inner gel of aloe vera contains polysaccharides and soothing compounds that may help reduce irritation along the stomach and intestinal lining. Because chronic low-grade inflammation can slow digestion, increase sensitivity, and create the exact conditions that make bloating feel persistent and mysterious. This is not usually the fastest plant on the list. It's not the one you reach for when gas is trapped right now. It's the one you reach for when your gut feels inflamed, reactive, or chronically off. Because a bloated gut that is irritated needs something different from a bloated gut that is simply tense. 12. Slippery elm, the bark that becomes a protective gel. This is one of the most remarkable plants in all of digestive herbalism. Slippery elm is the inner bark of a North American tree, and when mixed with water, it forms a thick gel. That gel can coat the digestive tract, not metaphorically, physically. That's what makes slippery elm so unique. If the digestive tract feels raw, sensitive, or inflamed, slippery elm acts like a soothing layer between irritated tissue and the constant friction of acid, food, and movement. Traditional use stretches back generations, especially in indigenous North American healing. And even today, it remains one of the most respected plants for the kind of bloating that doesn't feel like gas so much as irritation. This is the plant I mentioned near the beginning. And once you understand it, you understand something deeper about gut healing. Sometimes the body doesn't need to be pushed. It needs to be shielded. 13. Marshmallow root, the quiet companion to slippery elm. Marshmallow root works in a similar family to slippery elm. It is rich in mucilage, the gel-forming substance that can coat and soothe irritated tissue. But marshmallow root has its own traditional identity, stretching back to ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome. Like slippery elm, it's useful when bloating comes with irritation, reflux, sensitivity, or a feeling that the digestive tract itself needs gentleness rather than force. And that idea is worth dwelling on. Modern health culture often assumes healing must be aggressive, detox harder, push faster, stimulate more, but many of the most respected gut plants in history do the opposite. They calm, they coat, they protect, they give the tissue a chance to recover. 14. Licorice root, the mucus layer restorer, particularly in its deglycerinated form known as DGL, has a long history in digestive medicine. Its special reputation comes from the way it appears to support the stomach's own protective mucus layer. That layer matters enormously. It is part of what protects the stomach wall from acid, irritation, and injury. When it becomes compromised, people can experience discomfort, burning, rawness, and the kind of upper abdominal bloating that doesn't feel like lower intestinal gas at all. DGL licorice is often used before meals for this reason. Not as a trendy supplement, as targeted support. If your bloating lives high in the stomach and comes with irritation, fullness, or that uncomfortable burning pressure feeling, licorice becomes much more interesting. 15. Plantain leaf, the wild healer most people walk past, not the banana-like fruit. The weed. Plantain leaf has been used across multiple traditional systems as a healing herb for irritated tissue. It contains soothing compounds, a mild astringency, and some mucilage, making it useful for calming the digestive lining. What makes plantain so striking is how ordinary it is. It grows in disturbed soil, lawns, cracks, and edges. People walk past it constantly without realizing that for generations it was treated as medicine. And there's something almost poetic about that. One of the great themes of traditional health is that many of the most useful plants are not exotic at all. They are common, familiar, unimpressive on the surface, until you learn what they do. If this deeper layer of the video is helping you connect the dots between symptoms and actual mechanisms, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with someone who keeps bouncing from random digestive tip to random digestive tip without a framework. Because what actually changes people is not more hacks. It's better understanding. Plants that support the deeper digestive machinery. Sometimes bloating doesn't come from irritation or stress or spasms. Sometimes the digestive process itself is underpowered. 16. Dandelion, the bitter plant that helps digestion wake up. Most people see dandelion and think weed. Traditional medicine saw tonic. Dandelion leaves have long been valued for helping with fluid balance, which matters because some people confuse water retention with gas bloating. But dandelion root is where the deeper digestive story begins. It is a bitter plant, and bitterness is one of the forgotten signals in modern diets. Bitter compounds help stimulate digestive juices, including bile. That matters because digestion is not passive. The body needs signals to prepare. And when those signals are weak, digestion can become sluggish and incomplete. Dandelion also contains prebiotic compounds that may help feed beneficial gut bacteria, giving it a second role beyond digestion alone. In other words, dandelion is not just about symptom relief. It helps restore digestive tone. 17. Artichoke leaf, the bile booster for rich, heavy meals. If bloating hits hardest after fatty meals, this plant deserves your attention. Artichoke leaf has long been used in Mediterranean traditions as a digestive aid, especially when food is rich, oily, or heavy. Its compounds appear to stimulate bile flow, and bile is essential for breaking down fats properly. When fat digestion is poor, people often feel it as lingering fullness, upper abdominal pressure, nausea, or a swollen, heavy stomach after meals. Artichoke addresses the process behind that, and this is where traditional appetizers start to make more sense. Bitter greens, artichokes, small pre-meal tonics. Many old food cultures were not just eating for pleasure, they were preparing the digestive system to do its job. 18. Turmeric, the anti-inflammatory root with digestive range. Turmeric is often discussed in the context of joints and general inflammation, but it belongs in gut conversations too. Curcumin, its most famous compound, has broad anti-inflammatory activity. And when low-grade inflammation is part of the digestive picture, whether from an irritated lining, a disrupted microbiome, or chronic dietary stress, turmeric becomes highly relevant. But turmeric may also support bile flow, which connects it to fat digestion as well. That dual role is powerful. It helps calm inflammation, and it may help digestion run more efficiently. Traditional cuisines often paired turmeric with black pepper and fat, a combination modern science now understands to improve absorption. Another beautiful example of ancestral food wisdom getting there long before the lab explained why. Foods and plants that shock people most. Now, we come to some of the most surprising entries on this list. 19. Cabbage, the ordinary vegetable with an extraordinary digestive history. This may be the most underestimated item in the entire video. Cabbage, not glamorous, not exotic, not expensive, but cabbage has a serious history in digestive health, especially in the form of fresh juice and fermentation. In the mid-20th century, physicians studying stomach ulcers observed unexpectedly rapid healing in patients given fresh cabbage juice regularly. Why? Cabbage appears to contain compounds that support the stomach's protective lining and tissue repair. It also provides fiber, and in fermented forms like raw sauerkraut or kimchi, it delivers microbial benefits that can support the broader gut ecosystem. This is the humble vegetable I teased at the beginning. And it reminds us of something most of modern wellness keeps forgetting. Power does not always arrive in expensive packaging. Sometimes it looks like a cabbage. 20. Papaya and papaya leaf, the enzyme strategy. We end with a plant that works through a completely different mechanism. Papaya contains papain, a proteolytic enzyme that helps break down protein. That is significant because incomplete protein digestion can contribute to post-meal bloating, especially after heavy meat or dairy meals. If your bloating seems meal-specific, if it shows up after protein-heavy dinners, if the sensation is fullness and fermentation rather than stress or irritation, papaya makes a lot of sense. Traditional cultures in Central America and Southeast Asia used both the fruit and, more intensely, the leaf for digestive support. This is less about soothing, less about coating, less about relaxing. It is about helping the body finish a digestive task more effectively. And that's a perfect final example of the core lesson in this video. Different bloating patterns require different plant strategies. At this point, let's simplify everything. Because the biggest mistake people make is treating bloating like one problem. It isn't. If the issue is trapped gas and spasm, think peppermint, fennel, anise, coriander, caraway. If the issue is slow or heavy digestion, think ginger, cumin, dandelion, artichoke, papaya. If the issue is stress and gut-brain tension, think chamomile, lemon balm, holy basil. If the issue is irritation and a sensitive gut lining, think aloe, slippery elm, marshmallow root, licorice, plantain, and even cabbage. That framework alone can save people years of random experimentation. What this really means for the next 10, 20, 30 years. So what does all of this mean? It means bloating is not always random, not always inevitable, and not always a mystery. It means the body often gives clues, if you know how to read them. A tight, cramping gut is different from a slow one. A stressed gut is different from an inflamed one. A heavy post-meal stomach is different from a raw, irritated digestive lining. And for thousands of years, people noticed those differences and matched plants accordingly. That is the real wisdom here. Not that one plant is the best, but that the right plant for the right pattern can change everything. And maybe that's the deeper lesson modern health keeps trying to relearn. The body is not broken. It is communicating, and sometimes relief begins the moment we stop throwing random solutions at symptoms and start understanding the mechanism beneath them. If you want a simple place to begin, don't start with all 20. Start with the pattern that sounds most like you. If your stomach tightens and traps gas, begin with peppermint or fennel. If meals sit too long, try ginger. If stress shows up in your gut, chamomile or lemon balm makes sense. If your gut feels irritated and sensitive, slippery elm or aloe may be the gentler path. Small, intelligent changes. That's how lasting change usually begins. If this video gave you a completely new way to think about your digestion, like it, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. And in the comments, tell me this. Which plant surprised you the most? Was it slippery elm, cabbage juice, dandelion, or papaya? Because the plants that helped human beings feel lighter, calmer, and more comfortable after eating are still here, still growing, still waiting, and now you know where to start.